The Falah of Egypt and his white children. The Amir Muhammad, governor of Cairo, tells this tale in his book of Chronicles. During my journey in High Egypt, I lodged one night in the house of a Falah, who was headman of his district. He was old and very brown, with a graying beard, but I noticed that his little children were very white with rosy cheeks, light hair, and blue eyes. When our host came to talk with us, after serving us with good cheer, I said to him, "How is it that you, who are so dark, have fair children, with rose and white skins, with light hair and eyes?" The fellow drew one of his braids towards him and began to caress the boy's hair as he answered. Their mother was afraid about her as a prisoner of war in the time of Salah al-Din the Victorious, after the Battle of Hittin, which freed us forever from the Christian invaders who would have usurped the royalty of Jerusalem. That was long, long ago, in the days of my youth. I pray you tell us the tale of I pray you tell us the story, O Sheikh, I said, and he replied, "Certainly I'll do so, for the tale of my adventure with the Christian maid is very strange." This is what he told us. "You must know that I am a cultivator of flax. My father and my grandfather sowed flax before me, also we bird and stock. I am a Falah of this land. One year I was lucky enough to have a harvest of flax in such perfect condition that it was worth at least 500 dinars. When I offered it in the market and could not find my profit, the buyers said to me, 'Take your flax to Accra in Syria, for you can sell it there to very great advantage.'" Action on their advice. I took all my year's yield to the city of Accra, which at the time was occupied by the Franks, and began at once to do good business. I relinquished half of my flax to the brokers on a 6 months' credit, and began to sell the rest retail with immense profit. One day, as I was selling my flax, a young Christian girl came to buy from me with face uncovered and unveiled head, as is the manner of the Franks. White and beautiful, she stood before me, and I could admire her fresh fairness at my eyes. The more I looked at her face, the deeper love entered to me, so that I took a long time over serving her, and when I had made up her package, let her have it very cheap. As she departed, I followed her with longing books. At this point Shahrazad saw the approach of morning and discreetly fell silent. But when the 552nd night had come, she said, a few days later she came again to buy, and this time I sold even more cheaply, though she did not bargain at all. On this occasion she doubtless perceived that I was in love with her, for when she came a third time, she was accompanied by an old woman, who stood close by during the sale and was with her on every subsequent visit. But when 552nd night had come, she said, a few days later that she came again to buy, and this time I sold even more cheaply, though she did not bargain at all. On this occasion she doubtless perceived that I was in love with her, for when she came a third time, she was accompanied by an old woman who stood close by during the sale and was with her on every subsequent visit. When my heart was quite overthrown by love, I took the old woman aside, saying, "Do you think a present to you would possibly procure me enjoyment of that girl?" "I could procure you and meeting and enjoyment," she answered, "but only on condition that the thing remained a secret between us three and that you were willing to part with a little money." "Oh, how foolish!" I exclaimed. "If my soul and my life were the price I would give them, money is a little matter. I then agreed with her for a brokerage of 50 dinars and, having paid her, sent her off to sound the feeling of her judge. Soon she returned with a favorable answer, and added, "Good master, this girl has no place for meetings, for she is a virgin and knows nothing of such a thing. You must receive her at your house. She will come in the evening and depart in the morning." This condition I accepted with fervor and hastened to my house where, after having made due preparation of meat, drink, and pastry, I waited as patiently as I could. Soon the girl arrived, and I led her on to the terrace, for it was summer. We sat side by side and ate and drank together. Now the house which I occupied looked over the sea, and the terrace was fair under moonlight, and the night was full of stars which showed their reflections in the water. As I looked at these things, my spirit changed within me, and I thought, "Are you not ashamed before Allah, under such a sky and facing such a sea, in a strange land, to rebel against His word and fornicate with a Christian?" I was already lying by the girl's side, and she was leaning against me lovingly. But after this revolution, I called upon God to witness that I abstained in all castity from this daughter of the Franks, and without even having set hand upon her, I turned my back and slept under the benign clarity of the sky. In the morning the young Frank rose and departed, grieved and silently, while I re-entered my shop and began my selling. Towards noon the girl passed in front of the door, looking very angry, and I suddenly desired her again even to death, for she was a moon of all moons. In my own soul I cried, "What made you refrain your desire from this woman? You are a lusty Falah of High Egypt, not an ascetic or a Sufi or an eunuch or a Persian weakling." Then I ran after the old woman and, taking her apart, said to her, "I would like another meeting." "Bequeathed," she answered. "This time it cannot be managed under 100 dinars." At once I gave her the 100 dinars, and that night the young Frank came to me again. But under the beauty of the naked sky I felt the same unwelcome scruples, and abstaining from the woman in all castity, derived no more advantage from this interview than from the first. When she saw that this was to be her treatment again, she rose in great anger from my sight and went away. And yet, next morning when she passed my shop, I felt the same desires. My heart beat thickly for love of her, and I sought out the old woman. She looked at me angrily and said, "Tell me, in Christ's name, O Mussulman. Is it thus that virgins are treated in your religion? You will never be able to come near her again, that is, unless you are willing to furnish 500 dinars. Then the old dame departed, trembling with inward flame, and determined to gather in the full value of all my flags and to sacrifice 500 dinars to save my life. I made all my money into a bundle and was about to carry it to the old woman when suddenly, at this point, Shahrazad saw the approach of morning and discreetly fell silent. But when the 553rd night had come, she said, I heard a herald crying in the streets, Who, O you Muslims, who tarry upon business in our city, learn that our trust with you is ended. You are given a week to put your affairs in order and return to your own country. I hastened to sell what flags remained to me, called in my money on that which I had loaned to the brokers, bought merchandise suitable from selling in my own country, and left the city of Acre with a heavy heart. A thousand painful regrets for the Christian girl brought with me upon my way. I journeyed to Damascus in Syria, where I sold my goods at unusual great profit, owing to the interruption of trade caused by the renewal of war. By Allah's grace, everything prospered between my hands, so that I was able to do a rich wholesale business in Christian prisoners of war. In this way 3 years passed, and little by little, the bitterness of my sudden separation from the young Frank was sweetened in my heart. We continued to gain great victories over the Franks, both about Jerusalem and in Syria. After many glorious battles, the Sultan Salah al-Din, with Allah's aid, completely routed the infidels, led their kings and captains captive into Damascus, and took all their cities on the coast. Glory to Allah. One day I had occasion to visit the towns of the Sultan's camp in order to show him a very beautiful slave whom I intended to sell. I presented the girl to Salah al-Din, and as she blessed him, Let me have her for 100 dinars. But the Sultan, may Allah have him in his mercy, had only 90 dinars with him, for he was using all the money of his treasure for the war. Therefore he turned to one of his guards, saying, Take this merchant into the town where we have collected the girl prisoners of our last engagement, and let him choose one of them for the 10 dinars which I owe him. Such was the justice of Sultan Salah al-Din. The guard led me into the town of the captive Franks, and as I was passing among the courts, I recognized the first who caught my eye as the sweet damsel I had loved at Acre. Since then she had become the wife of a Christian captain in high command. As soon as I saw her, I put my arm about her in sign of possession, saying, This is the one I wish. Then I led her away. When we came under my tent, I said, Damsel, do you recognize me? She answered that she did not, and I continued, I am the friend whom you twice visited in his house at Acre. Thanks to my gifts to the old woman, first of 50 and then of 100 dinars, I abstained from you in all chastity, and allowed you to depart unhurt and very angry. I was ready to pay 500 dinars for the third meeting, and I know the Sultan lets me have you for 10. She lowered her head for a moment and then, lifting it suddenly, exclaimed, "That which passed in Acre was a mystery of the faith of Islam. I raised my fingers and bear witness that there is no God but Allah and that Muhammad is the Prophet of Allah." Thus she pronounced her act of belief and in that moment was ennobled in the faith. As Allah lives, I said to myself, I will not penetrate her this time, either, until I have freed her and married her according to the law. I went immediately to the Qadi and, when I had told him of the affair, brought him back to my tent to write our marriage contract. Then I went into her and she conceived by me, and he dwelt in Damascus. After he had been together for a few months, an ambassador came from the king of the Franks to Sultan Salah al-Din in Damascus to see to an exchange of prisoners. According to the terms of treaty between the kings, all the captives, both men and women, were scrupulously returned to the Franks in exchange for our own. But when the ambassador consulted his list, he perceived that there was one woman missing, the wife of a captain in high command. The Sultan sent his guards to find her, and in the end, in the end, they reported that she was at my house. The guards were sent back to fetch her, and I changed color when they came. I went weeping to my wife and told her what had happened, but she rose, saying, "Lead me to the Sultan, for I know what to say to him." I conducted her, veiled, into Salah al-Din's presence, and there I saw the ambassador of the Franks sitting upon his right hand. At this point Shahrazad saw the approach of morning and discreetly fell silent. But when the 554th night had come, she said, I kissed the earth between the Sultan's hands, crying, "Here is the woman." He turned to my wife and asked, "What have you to say? Do you wish to return to your own land with the ambassador or stay with your husband?" "I stay with my husband," she answered. "I am of his faith and with child by him. The peace of my soul is not among the Christians. You have heard? You have heard?" said Salah al-Din to the ambassador. "But if you wish, you may speak to her yourself." The Frank remonstrated with and admonished my wife, and ended by asking her the same question as the Sultan had asked. "Will stay with your present husband, who is a Mussulman, or return to your former husband, who is a Christian?" "I'll never leave my Egyptian," she said, "for my peace is in Islam." Then the ambassador stamped his foot in rage and cried, "Take away that woman." So I took her by the hand and was about to depart with her, when the ambassador called me back and said, "An old Christian woman in Acre, your wife's mother, gave me this package for her daughter. She charged me to say that she hopes to see her again in excellent health." I took the packet from his hand and returned with my wife to the house. There we opened the cloth covering and found it not only the clothes which my wife had worn in Acre, but also the 50 dinars and the 100 dinars knotted in the same handkerchief and with the same note as when they had left my hands. Then at last I understood the blessing of my chastity and gave thanks to Allah. Soon afterwards, I brought my wife to Egypt. She was dear guest, who bore me these white children. May Allah bless them. Since then we have lived happily together. Since then we have lived happily together, eating our bread as we have baked it, such is my tale. But Allah is all wise. When Shahrazad had finished his tale, she fell silent, and King Shahryar exclaimed that Falah was a happy man, O Shahrazad. Then said Shahrazad, Ya the king, he was not more happy than was Khalifa the fisherman with the sea abyss and the Khalifa. What is that tale of Khalifa the fisherman? Asked Shahryar, and Shahrazad answered, I will tell it you at once.